Welcome back to Forgotten Hollywood. Lucy and Desi, known to most as Lucy and Ricky, were one of Hollywood's most influential power couples. Nearly everyone has seen something that they were in or they had a hand in, at least as far as Lucille Ball is concerned. However, very few people I've met seem to know the story behind the couple. Lucille Ball was born in New York City in 1911. She had a very hard life. Her dad died when she was 3. Her mom remarried when she was 7. She was raised mostly in grandparents' homes. Her stepdad's parents were particularly strict. They would scold her for doing things like admiring herself in the bathroom mirror. They called that vanity and would not allow it. So, in this negative atmosphere, it's little wonder that she was drawn to stage performance where she could get praise. And at 14, she actually started dating a not great guy, and her mom wanted to end the relationship, so she took advantage of the fact that Lucille liked to perform and enrolled her in an acting school. How successful that was depends on your definition. She didn't actually do that well in acting school, and her instructors told her that she would never make it in show business. I wonder if any of them watched I Love Lucy. So she did modeling work, and she became one of the MGM Goldwyn girls in the chorus line. So she was able to support herself, and in 1933 she moved to Hollywood to pursue film, and she had 26 uncredited roles in 3 years before she was able to earn her name in the credits. At that time, you didn't make it into the credits just because you were in the picture. You had to earn that right. You had to do well. You had to do multiple roles. You had to be noticed, and you had to have a prominent enough role that it justified putting your name in the credits. Nowadays, the person who walks the dogs is in the credits. Everyone gets their name in the credits nowadays. Not the case back in the 30s. She worked hard, she earned it, and in 1937, she was able to get her name on the poster. Granted, it was the last name listed, but it was on the poster for the movie Stage Door, which starred Katharine Hepburn and Ginger Rogers. This was kind of her breakout role because the next film that she did, Go Chase Yourself in 1938, she had second billing. Now, I do want to note that these were not big time movies that she was starring in. She was called the Queen of the Bees, as in B movies. But she was acting and she was getting known and she was getting recognized. And that was the important thing. In contrast to Lucille Ball's hard life, Desi Arnaz was actually born into a pretty nice situation. He was born in Santiago de Cuba in 1917. He was descended from Cuban nobility and the son of the city's youngest mayor. This was all well and good until he was 16 years old, when the Cuban Revolution came in 1933 and Arnaz lost everything. Like, literally, he jumped into a fleeing vehicle to get away from the people coming to destroy his house. He ended up in Miami, and at least at one point, he and his family were living in a garage that was infested with rats and bugs and such. So, he went from high to as low as you could almost be. I don't think he was technically homeless, but he was pretty close to that. He took summer classes at St. Leo Prep to improve his English and worked various jobs from cleaning canary cages to selling tile. When he graduated high school, he joined a band, and that's where things started to really get better for him. He was noticed in that band and invited to join an orchestra, and then he did well in that orchestra, becoming a star attraction, which allowed him to form his own band. And here's where the careers collide. Desi's musical skill landed him a part in a Broadway show called Too Many Girls, and the show was a massive hit, so he went to Hollywood in 1940 to be part of the film version, which starred Lucille Ball. It's funny because the male lead in that movie was Richard Carlson, not Desi. Desi played one of his buddies. And so Lucy and Desi didn't really interact much on screen in that movie, even though they were both in it. But off screen, they were falling in love. And 6 months after filming wrapped, they eloped. She was 29, he was 23. not super acceptable age difference at the time. So what they did was they wrote down on the marriage license that they were both 26, just splitting the difference. Now, despite the fact that they were now married and both in show business, they kept their careers completely separate. Um, Lucy continued to be a popular actress in films and radio, but she didn't quite reach full stardom level. Meanwhile, Desi formed a new orchestra and had successful tours and recordings. One of the shows that Lucy was part of was in 1948, when she played Liz Cooper in the radio comedy My Favorite Husband. Also, around the time the marriage started having problems, Lucy at one point couldn't go to Desi's live shows because she was a bigger name than he was. So once people found out Lucille Ball is here, people stopped paying attention to the orchestra and started paying attention to Lucille Ball sitting in the booth over there. And Desi, for obvious reasons, did not like that. Lucy stopped coming to avoid problems there. But also, Desi was on the road a lot, and Lucy's work kept her in California, so she couldn't travel with him. And this led to other problems because Desi had some bad habits that he would indulge in while he was away. I don't think I need to go into what habits those were, but it wasn't a good situation for their marriage. So, Lucy decided to take actions to save her marriage. In 1950, CBS wanted Lucy to produce a television version of her popular radio show, My Favorite Husband. And she said, "Great, sounds good. We're casting my husband in the lead." And they were like, no one's gonna believe that a redheaded American girl married a Cuban. And she's going, "But I did." So what Lucy and Desi did to prove to the studio that it would work is they created a vaudeville act and they performed it live in New York City, I believe it was. And they audiences loved it. It became a hit. But most of the executives were still on the fence. They weren't really sure people would like this. But there was this one exec named Harry Ackerman, and he got the others to sign on in part because he said, "Hey, you know that other studios like NBC and ABC are interested in producing this show with Lucille Ball and her real life husband?" And CBS is like, "No, they can't have Lucy. We'll do it. We'll do it. Just keep her here." So I Love Lucy premiered on October 15th, 1951. And it was made by Desi Lou Productions, which is a production company owned by Desi and Lucy. Note that CBS was still needed for distribution. Lucy and Desi could make the show. They had the studio space, they had the equipment and everything, but they couldn't get it on the air without a network like CBS. So I Love Lucy lasted from 1951 to 1957, and it had a total of 180 episodes. This show also, in addition to showing an interracial couple, it also helped remove the stigma of pregnancy. When Lucy became pregnant in 1953, she said, "We're working it into the show." And the executive said, "Oh, no. You can't work it into the show. You can't say the word pregnancy on the air." Yes, it actually was considered scandalous in 1953. However, Lucy didn't back down. She said, "I'm going to continue working, and I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to walk around with a laundry basket for the next full season." They decided that they were going to have Lucy in the show have a baby. The compromise was that they couldn't use the word pregnancy on the air, so they would use things like expectant or just say she's having a baby, whatever they had to do to avoid the taboo word. After the show ended, Lucy and Desi had the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour from 1957 to 1960. During this time, they also ran Desi Lou Productions as a couple. While I Love Lucy was the most well-known show from this period, the company also produced 8 sitcoms, such as Our Miss Brooks, and 4 westerns, including The Texan. However, strain from running the company caused Desi to fall back into old habits that he was prone to on tour, and this led to the couple divorcing in 1960. In 1962, Lucy bought out Desi's shares of the company. After leaving Desi Lou, Desi tried to create his own production company, but he only made one sitcom and it closed after less than 2 years. But on February 21st, 1976, Desi was a guest host on SNL. He did several bits for this episode, including reading the Alice in Wonderland poem Jabberwocky in his Cuban accent, and did a spoof on I Love Lucy, which was I Love Louie, where he lived with Louis Armstrong. And the same year he was interviewed and asked if he was going to be returning to television full time, and he said it was too hard to compete with Ricky Ricardo. Quote, he looks better than I do. Meanwhile, Lucy became the first woman to head a studio and ran Desi Lucille until 1976. And part of her job was approving concepts for production. She gave the green light to The Untouchables, Star Trek, Mission Impossible, and Mannix. Desi Lu also was known to rent out studio space to other production companies that didn't have it. Filmed in her studio, though not owned by her, were The Andy Griffith Show, Dick Van Dyke Show, My Favorite Martian, and Hogan's Heroes, among others. Now, both Desi and Lucy did remarry after their divorce, but they remained close friends. One of the last phone calls Desi made was to Lucy on November 30th, 1986, where the two said, I love you to each other. He died just a couple days later on December 2nd, 1986, after battling lung cancer. He was only 69 years old. Lucille Ball passed less than 3 years after Desi on April 26th, 1989. While their marriage may have failed, Lucy and Desi are forever linked by fans around the world as Lucy and Ricky Ricardo. And no matter what happened to them in real life, that couple, in the hearts and minds of the fans, lived happily ever after. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite episode of I Love Lucy? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, and I will catch up with you next time.